Chapter 239, Related Ability, Main Genetic Base Points 2. Zhu Tui had come to the research center to train almost every day for the past few days. He had left behind some data. Soon, test data were produced one after another. Both Luo Shifeng and Zhu Tui had excited expressions. Zhu Tui's fastest reaction speed was 0.1 milliseconds. The average reaction speed was 0.3 milliseconds. His overall reaction speed was 0.5 milliseconds. This number could be said to be multiplied. One had to know that before this, Zhu Tui's best overall reaction speed had only stabilized to 1 millisecond. Moreover, the consensus and actual situation was that when a person's reaction speed reached a certain level, they could increase their reaction speed when they activate a brand new genetic base point. However, a person's overall reaction speed could not be increased. Now, Zhu Tui's overall reaction speed has also increased exponentially. This meant that the first ability of the genetic ability chain that Luo Shifeng mentioned existed. Then, Luo Shifeng and Zhu Tui began to test their second genetic ability, which was time distortion. Luo Shifeng had tried it a few times himself. He only showed Zhu Tui that extremely dangerous display after he succeeded. However, Zhu Tui did not need that. According to Luo Shifeng's summary, time distortion at the speed of light did not require danger to activate it. Instead, as long as the user was focused, they could activate it immediately. Of course, only the initiator knew the effects. Outsiders could not tell. If he wanted others to see through him, he would have to put on a dangerous display like Luo Shifeng. However, Zhu Tui did not need that. He only needed to follow Luo Shifeng's instructions and take the initiative to activate the time distortion technique. Under normal circumstances, it should have been easy. However, 20 minutes later, both Zhu Tui and Luo Shifeng's expressions became a little ugly. Nothing happened. Zhu Tui did not have the time distortion ability after activating the 9th reaction speed genetic base point. Luo Shifeng and Zhu Tui had tried all kinds of methods, but they did not find out that Zhu Tui had this ability. Zhu Tui felt a little depressed as he sat there. He did not have such a powerful ability. What was their son? Luo Shifeng was also thinking. There might only be one reason. After a while, Luo Shifeng suddenly looked up. This ability might be related to the degree of development of genetic base points. Genetic base point development level? That's right. It should require a genetic base point with a reaction speed of the nervous system too. Develop to a certain extent to obtain this ability, Luo Shifeng said. But Mr. Luo, both you and I have activated the 9th and 8th genetic base points recently. Their development should be about the same, right? Zhu Tui asked doubtfully. However, I have been training and developing the first 7 genetic base points for almost 30 years. The degree of development of those 7 genetic base points is definitely multiple of yours, Luo Shifeng said. Actually, this also confirms the degree of development of genetic base points that I told you before. Some powerful genetic abilities might require the development of relevant genetic base points to a certain extent before they could appear and be mastered. That should be the case for this time distortion, Luo Shifeng said. Zhu Tui immediately thought of the color level of his genetic base points. Based on what Luo Shifeng had said, theoretically, Zhu Tui should be able to obtain the time distortion ability as long as he strengthened all of his genetic base points, which were related to his reaction speed, to level 2, which was the silver level. However, it would take a lot of time and resources to upgrade all 9 genetic base points to level to silver. No, it shouldn't be like this. At this moment, Luo Shifeng had at most strengthened 7 genetic base points to level 2. The 8th and 9th genetic base points were definitely level 1. However, he still had time distortion. In other words, as long as Zhu Tui found the main genetic base points related to this ability and strengthened it to level 2, he would be able to obtain time distortion. Of course, he would need to strengthen his other genetic base points to level to silver if he wanted to increase time distortion ability in the future. The question now was, which one was the main genetic base point related to the time distortion ability? Zhu Tui raised a crucial question. I personally think that it should be the new 9th one. Luo Shifeng gave his opinion. Mr. Luo, what's their son? Their son is simple. I've been continuously training and developing the other 7 genetic base points for almost 30 years. I've never obtained the ability to distort time at the speed of light. However, after activating the 9th one, I obtained this ability. I feel that this must be the main genetic base point of this ability, Luo Shifeng said. But I didn't obtain it, Zhu Tui questioned. It's still the same thing. It's related to the degree of development of genetic base points. Other than main genetic base points, there are also secondary genetic base points that affect an ability. The other 8 reaction speed genetic base points should all be secondary genetic base points for this ability. The development of these 7 secondary genetic base points was high enough. Therefore, after activating the main genetic base point, even if the main genetic base point was very primitive, they would still possess this ability. However, if you focus on developing this main genetic base point, it won't take too long. Perhaps in 2 to 3 years, or at most 3 to 5 years, you will be able to possess this time distortion like me, Luo Shifeng said. Zhu Tui approved of Luo Shifeng's theory. Then, Mr. Luo, what is the probability of the 9th reaction type genetic base point being the main genetic base point for the time distortion ability? Zhu Tui asked. First of all, only the genetic base points in the head can become the main genetic base points of this ability. Based on my personal cultivation experience, the probability of the 9th reaction type genetic base point being the main genetic base point of this ability was more than 90%. The probability of the other 3 being the main genetic base point is less than 10%. Luo Shifeng gave his judgment. Alright, let's do it. Ill work heard. Strengthening 9 related genetic base points to level 2 would consume a lot of time and resources for Zhu Tui. It would greatly affect his current cultivation progress. However, strengthening one of them to level to silver would not affect Zhu Tui's cultivation progress. He would only need a day or 2 to fully focus on his cultivation. He could still put in some effort. He did as he was told. There was still an hour before the ranking battle in the afternoon. Zhu Tui decided to start cultivating in Luo Shifeng's office. He entered the illusory introspective state and began to strengthen the 9th genetic base point that he had activated.